Well, this week's 90-Day Fiancé, the tell-all, was a doozy. Stay tuned and listen to what my opinions were of what went on. Hi, Grandma Bev here from Life with Grandma Bev, and welcome back to my channel. Yeah, as you know, I'm one of those people who's hooked on all the 90-day franchises, and one of the things I like the most is when they do the tell-alls, because some of the things come out. Because, it's been almost a year since they actually recorded the program. And the tell-alls, I think I saw that it was done like in March, so that was just a couple of months ago, so we get to hear what's happened since then. Exciting. Well, I'll go over my opinion of what happened this week. Got my notes. They started, of course, with Nicole. Of course, she's crying. It was a leftover from last week's, from when Gabe asked some pointed questions of Mahmoud, and Mahmoud got upset and stormed off. And they show him walking down this big, I don't know what it was, if it's part of their house he lives in or what, but it looks like a big backyard with no grass. And she's on the phone. She had left to go talk to him on the phone. And he's just, mad and angry, and that guy, blah, 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 blah. And she's talking to him like he's a child. Because it reminded me of somebody. Oh, man. And she keeps telling me, I'm so sorry, my love, my love. So he finally agreed to go back in and sit down. Well, of course, when we first opened, before she went out, she's sitting there, like I say, sobbing. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry. So she went back in, too. And Gabe apologizes, which I thought was nice of him. And he says he feels like he can give his opinion because his dad, his stepmother, and his 3 younger siblings are Muslims. So he feels like he knows how it goes and stuff, But what I think is comical is the faces that little guy can make. It's so cute. Always, so cute. But we'll get to more of him later. And then good old Debbie, she gets up and comes over and gives Nicole a big hug and hugs her real tight. Debbie, she's a good old soul. So then we do move to Gabe and Isabel. And they bring on Gabe's friend Trey. Remember Trey? When they were still back in, he was still back in wherever they're from. And of course, Trey's a single guy. He likes to go out, and Gabe was single then, too. Well, apparently, since he and Isabel got married, he's not allowed by Isabel to go out with Trey into bars and things like that, which I can understand. Why put yourself in where the temptation's at? And Trey says that, Gabe does attract a lot of female attention when he goes. but he doesn't... he doesn't go leave with anybody's phone numbers or anything. And I guess they make it clear that he can see Gabe, but Isabel has to be there. So I don't know. Isabel's kind of gotten a little, what's the word? Overly possessive or not? I don't know. Who knows what she's gone through in her past that makes her act this way, but Gabe is a cute little guy. All right, so they didn't show a whole much in the beginning. Then we moved to Jen and Richie. Well, apparently she went back to where he's at to go to a wedding, and it's a mutual friend of theirs, so he was there too. Well, they ended up getting back together. It was about 6 months after they had broken up. And someone asked, well, where did you stay? So she stayed in a hotel. And Ricci never spent the night. And good old little Gabe pops up. How early did he show up there? And she says, okay, yeah, we did get intimate. And they go, how was it? And she's, oh, fantastic. It was magical. Because, I mean, they hadn't had sex for 2 years, right? So she says they're back together like as a couple, but not engaged. But Ricci says they are engaged, in his opinion. So then they bring out Myra and Randy, who were Jen's friends, who spilled the beans to Ricci's mother and uncle about them being engaged. And they both said, we didn't know you were back with them. So this was news to them. And they still said they don't trust them. I didn't know they were back together. They're still against the relationship. I guess apparently he kind of indicated that Randy sent him some suggestive, I guess, questions or comments or things, and so he blocked her or whatever. I don't know if I trust that girl. Anyway, somebody asked him, it was probably Gabe, during those 6 months before they got back together, did he hook up with anybody? And he kind of hesitated for a minute and says, no. No, I don't think that's true. So really hesitated. So, then they bring his parents on. By parents, I mean his mother and his uncle. And they're nice and happy. And and he tells them that he still plans to marry Jen, probably within at least 6 months or so, because Jen said to him, hey, or maybe it was Gabe, said, tell your parents right now that you're still planning on marrying her. You're still engaged. You're still planning on marrying her within 6 months to a year. And she goes, yeah, you're right. Tell him. So he told them. And Mom's sitting there, no, we will not approve that. We will not consent to it. She's too old. She's, 48? I'm not old, but I guess for their son is too old. They said if she was like a year older or 6 months older, that might be okay. But, of course, Jen is furious when she hears that. So they moved on from there. Well, then Sean, the commentator or MC or host, whatever you want to call it, decides, let's get on to the subject of sex. So she starts with Danielle, and right away they're asking Danielle, because there's such a big height difference between them, does it make it difficult to have sex? And she says, no, well, she says she's very, what's the word, limber, or what's the word when people are, so it's like, geez, you guys, this is like TMI. I don't want to picture what goes into my head when they talk about it. No, they have no problems. Oh, hi, Callie. I saw something moving over here. Hey, Callie, cuckoo. And, Debbie says, geez, you were talking on the program to Danielle's ex-boyfriend about the size of his little wanker and about the size of his. And she says, geez, man, that's going to follow you forever. Excuse me. Excuse me? Excuse me. You don't tell them what to do. That it's going to follow him forever on the internet and stuff. Why do they talk that way? So then they asked Debbie about her sex life with Usman. And she says, no, they never had any sex. They were never intimate. And so Jen pipes up, well, what about Casablanca when you mentioned that on the last week's episode? And Debbie says, no, that was more Usman's imagination and hoping. Nothing happened. She has asked her, when was the last time she had sex? She says, it's been probably about 12 years. Thinking, ooh, how do we get on that subject? Well, then they get into Gabe and Isabel. If anybody here wants to know anything about what a trans person goes through to become, like in his case, female to a male, watch this episode. Because they were asking him all kinds of stuff, especially Danielle, about what it looked like and how it functioned. Does anything come out? All this stuff, and Danielle was just fascinated with it, and and he went into details, So I tell you, he's helping educate a lot of us who wondered. TMI. And she asked him, well, can you pick what size you want to be? And he says, well, yeah, he Googled and checked out what the average size of men is. And he took it from there. And he says, what, did you add 3 inches? So that was the interesting part of the sex story part. I think I got everything on there. Yeah, details about how it works and everything. Then we finally moved to Chris and Jamie, and that's when the big, fight. Women can get when they fight. It's like I can't fight, and feels like I got a hair here. I don't know who to believe of those two. So many people say they're like Team Jamie. I just don't know. Jamie says that despite what Chris says, she only sent her 1 rent payment. Chris says she sent her, 1 from her bank and then had her mother send some money through her mother's bank or something, because Chris still maintains, or, says that the bank was giving her issues because of when she was over there, and she hadn't let her bank know she's going to be in another country. They're worried that her bank's been, her thing's been compromised. Well, usually a bank will just give you a different account number, And they asked Chris, how much did she send during their whole relationship? And Chris says she sent about $10,000 total. Jamie says no, it's like $1,150, and she has receipts. She shows us a receipt for the 1,000, and it just goes back and forth. And Jamie's she's a good actress if she is the bad one, if you want to call it that in this pair. Chris says that Jamie cheated 2 times on Chris. And Jamie says, no, that's when they weren't together. And Chris says, well, we were. I was working, morning, noon, and night. And you got me so upset. I was on my way home. I flipped my car. And with all my health issues, it was really hard on me. So I don't know. Finally, Debbie pipes in and says, in every relationship, there's a giver and a taker. And she feels that Jamie is the taker and Chris is the giver in this relationship. And all the others go, what? Even Sean, what? They don't believe that. But I don't know. I don't know about these two. And Jamie says also that while they were, Chris was at home, she must have gone out with a guy because somebody sent her pictures of Chris having sex with a guy. And so then Chris pipes in, well, Jamie, at the same time that she was corresponding with Chris, was also corresponding with a gal from Texas and said the exact same things to this gal. Excuse me. that Jamie said to her, the exact same things. So they just were going back and forth, yelling at each other, very upset and excited. And I just don't know about those two. I mean, gosh, when women get together, or they can get pretty catty. I don't know. Jamie says she's got the pictures. Of course, that's where they ended it. So I'm hoping next week we can see. Well, I'm sure they won't show us the full pictures, but it's going to continue on with those two. I know that. All right. Oh. So I think that's everything I needed to cover. Of course, they showed previews for next week. Now, next week, if I am able to do one of these, you'll see it more towards later in the week because I'm going to be traveling. But when I get home, I'll be able to watch it. Now I'll be all hyped up. I'll probably watch it, get home on Thursday, and I'll watch it Thursday night. We'll see if I give them, because that's the last one. There were 3 tell-all episodes. The first one was only an hour long. This one was 2 hours, and I imagine next week's is 2 hours. So, looks like some good stuff coming up. Well, for those of you who watch this, what do you think? Comment, share, like, and subscribe. I don't know what more to say. I'm trying to think of what's a good ending. Will Chris and Jamie resolve anything? I don't think so. Jen and Gabe, not Jen and Gabe, Gabe and Isabel seem to be doing fine with their relationship. And Jen and Richie, she was pretty upset after his mother called her old. And Nicole and Mahmoud, well, I hope you're having a good week. I love you all. Bye.